We are in the middle of the season. Much was wondered about how the Bavarian attack would fare without the masterful presence of a nine like Robert Lewandowski in Bayern's striker position. The mystery of how Nagelsmann would fit so many offensive pieces without the characteristics of a classic number 9 was the topic that surrounded Bavarian trending topics in mid-August 2022. Do you remember? What was your opinion at the time? Today, we will examine the offensive performance of the Bavarian team and assess how Bayern is performing during the most challenging period of the season, the mid-season. Welcome to the Bayern Guy channel. You will find a lot of Bayern here. The mid-season is the most challenging time for Bayern. The team begins to tire, and they start to feel the intensity of the games, injuries, and fluctuations in players directly affect the team. After 6 months of the season, we can analyze that Bayern found an alternative to Lewandowski's goals, but perhaps not as predicted. The Bavarian team began the 22-23 season using Sadio Mané as a kind of center forward. After conducting numerous tests and experiments, it became apparent that the best African player of the year 2022 needed to adapt to a new league, new position, and new culture. The most reactionary fans of Bayern Munich thought Bayern needed to do something and do it quickly. Many draws were happening because Sadio Mané was not adapting. However, Bayern fans tend to be very biased, especially when the result is not the best. It's a problem that I, as a Bayern fan, particularly like to have. This is a sign that the team has a high standard of expectation, and in the end, all the pressure will be worth it. And so we go on. It took about 2 months, with many tests, for Julian Nagelsmann to find his best formation within Bayern, and it featured a character who was perhaps a little unexpected, Eric Choupo-Moting, a 33-year-old Cameroonian player who, to be honest, gives me a kind of Claudio Pizarro vibe. A very competent striker who scored many goals in the Bundesliga and ended up becoming a beloved character and legend within the club. I don't know to what extent this is the coach's fault because, under Tuchel's command, Choupo-Moting managed to steal the spotlight from the only PSG team that reached the Champions League final. Choupo-Moting had a fundamental role in the quarterfinals against Atlanta in that nostalgic August of 2020. It is up to this kind of Claudio Pizarro 2.0 to be the owner of the most classic position of Bayern. And despite many considerations, jokes, and distrust, Choupo-Moting has performed and is having a great season. In 23 games, the Cameroonian has already scored 14 goals, and last Tuesday against PSG, he showed great versatility outside the area. Coleman's goal came after Choupo-Moting drew Sergio Ramos out of the area and passed the ball to Davies, who crossed for Coleman, who was totally free to finish off Donnarumma's goal. And despite Choupo-Moting, the club still relies on the quality of its wingers and midfielders. Many versions of Bayern can be observed. It's a club that mutates frequently. Julian Nagelsmann has done a fantastic job at Bayern, maximizing the abilities of his players and making the team adapt to different game situations. In addition to Choupo-Moting, the coach has also been giving many opportunities to young players like Jamal Musiala, who has shown to be the future and present of Bayern. Musiala, 19 years old, is the team's top scorer in the Bundesliga with 10 goals. An impressive number, considering that Musiala's function is not necessarily to score. In 20 games in the Bundesliga, Bayern scored 58 goals. In 7 Champions League games, Bayern scored 18 goals. In 3 Pokal games, Bayern scored 14 goals. These numbers alone show how well prepared Julian Nagelsmann is when it comes to adapting to different game situations. He has already experimented with various tactical formations throughout the season, and it has worked out. He had the task of filling the void left by Robert Lewandowski and managed to do it with mastery. Last year, the Polish striker already had 26 goals in the season, and Bayern was extremely dependent on him. And it was very difficult to imagine Bayern without Lewandowski. From a certain point of view, it is difficult to imagine Bayern without a top-class striker today. That's why so much is said about Harry Kane. The English striker is expected to transfer from Tottenham to Bayern in what will probably be the club's most expensive signing. This ongoing saga will continue for a while, and undoubtedly, under the right circumstances, I can imagine Kane transferring to Bayern in the end. Despite all this, Bayern has distributed goals very well this season and has everything to be one of Europe's best attacks in numbers. But what about you? Are you happy with the new squad? Would you like to have Harry Kane at Bayern? Comment below with your opinion. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. From your always friend, Bayern Guy.